Hello everybody, today we are going to be reading The Sissy Duckling. It's a book by Harvey Fierstein, illustrated by Henry Cole. So based off of just this title page and what the title is itself, what can we guess about what this book is going to be about? And I'll allow a few minutes for discussion, and then when I bring it back, I will say, all right, so I know that this book seems to be kind of kiddish, but there are very important themes that are present within the text. An example is gender roles. So that's something that we're going to be mindful of and looking for as we're going through this book. Okay. Elmer was the happiest duckling in the whole forest. He loved to build things and paint pictures and play make-believe. He also enjoyed helping around the house and was especially fond of decorating cookies. Elmer was one happy duckling doing all the things he loved to do. And there he is baking a cake, doing what he loves to do. Unfortunately, there wasn't a single other little boy duckling who liked to do any of the stuff that Elmer did. Not one. They boxed while Elmer baked. When they built forts, Elmer made sandcastles. They had a football game, and Elmer put on a puppet show. Sometimes, Elmer played with the girls. Most of the time, he played alone. There he is, playing alone. So do we think that Elmer is sad to be playing alone and doing the things he loves alone? Based on the context that we've already read, we can make the assumption that he isn't very upset by being alone doing these things. He's the happiest duckling in the forest. He's happiest when he's doing the things he loves. And they say that, so we can infer that he doesn't feel sad about being alone. You'll never get along in the world if you don't learn to play with others, Papa Duck told his son. It's time for you to learn baseball. How about I put on the halftime show instead? Offered Elmer. Papa Duck just shook his head. What's the point? Elmer asked. I can't catch, and I can't throw. You don't have to catch or throw, just hit the ball, said Papa, plunking a batting helmet onto Elmer's little head. This is going to be a disaster, thought Elmer as the first pitch streaked past his beak. Batter can't hit, chanted the catcher. Elmer snapped back. Do I point out your shortcomings? As the second pitch whizzed past his bat, the umpire called out, strike two. So what do we think the word shortcomings means on this page? Do I point out your shortcomings? So we know that it has to be a negative connotation due to the fact that it says batter can't hit, the batter can't hit. So he was being negative towards him. Therefore, shortcoming must be a negative aspect, right? Okay. Swing, hollered Papa, swing. And another pitch flew right into the catcher's glove. Strike three, cried the umpire. You're out. Really? I'm all done? Elmer asked, tossing aside his helmet and bat. Thanks for the swell time, fellas, he announced. See you in postseason. And then, to the amazement of all, he skipped merrily away. Elmer was getting ready for bed when he heard his papa shouting in the living room. Sissy! They called him a sissy. Now I'm the laughingstock of the whole flock. When Mama came to tuck Elmer into bed, it took all of his courage to ask her, What's a sissy? Mama sat down next to him and explained sissy is a cruel way of saying that you don't do things the way others think you should. How do they want me to do things? Just like they do, Mama said with a smile. You're special, Elmer, and being special sometimes scares those who are not. I don't want to be special, Elmer quietly confessed. But you are, Mama said, holding Elmer close, and one day you will amaze all of us. So, based on the last two pages, how can we interpret the relationship between Elmer and his mom and Elmer and his dad? Do they differ at all? Do you think that he has a better relationship with one or the other? Why? Elmer arrived at school the next morning to find big bully Drake Duckling blocking the path. No sissies allowed in my school, Drake squawked. Elmer faced him down, bill to bill. You're just angry because I do things differently. But one day I will amaze you all. Who fed you that line? Drake chuckled. Elmer bellowed back, "My mama! What a sissy," Drake howled, and the other ducklings joined in teasing Elmer until Mrs. Hennypecker appeared at the door. "I heard that," announced their teacher, "and you will all stay after class until you can learn to get along." The ducklings grumbled and mumbled and waddled into the schoolhouse. Because everyone blamed Elmer for having to stay late, he decided it would be wise to let them leave school first. He took a good look around before stepping out behind the door. Alone at last, he said to himself and started down the path. "See? There's nothing to worry about." "Want to bet?" came the thundering reply. What does thundering mean in this situation, based on this context? Right, it's loud, it's booming in your ears. Drake sprang from his hiding place, his fists raised for a fight. Elmer had no time to think. He made a break towards home, running harder than he had ever run before, with Drake chasing his every step. They jumped over fallen trees, splashed through puddles, crashed through branches, and leaped across a stream. Elmer was so frightened that he couldn't catch his breath, not even when he reached his house, not when he got into his room, not even when he locked the door and hid under his bed. Even then, alone in the dark, there was no peace for Elmer. How do you think these kind of situations are going to affect the way that Elmer is? Do you think he's going to change who he is? Or do you think he's going to stay strong and stay true to it? Good thoughts? "He ran away instead of fighting," Papa bellowed. "He was being chased," Mama argued back. "In a few weeks, we will all fly south for the winter. It will be every duck for himself. Only the strong will survive. If you stop thinking like a sneaker commercial, you'd see that Elmer is just as strong as any other duckling. Elmer is a sissy. Elmer is your son," Mama pleaded. "He's no son of mine," declared Papa. Poor Elmer heard his father's words, and his heart crumbled to pieces. What do you do when your own papa calls you names? Does anybody have any changing perceptions of their relationship now that we have seen that page? Yeah. Elmer didn't want to make his mama unhappy or his papa angry anymore. He filled the pillowcase with his paints and tools and a picture of his parents. He tied up the bundle and he carried it into the night. The forest was dark and silent. Elmer was relieved that there was no one around to see his tears when he slipped into the great pond and swam away from home. What is the tone being conveyed in these 2 pages? It's very sad, right? And we can kind of see that through his facial expressions and the colors that are utilized, especially in that second picture. Good. All right, Elmer stepped onto the opposite shore and looked around. He found an old hollow tree hidden deep in the forest. "No one will ever find me here," he thought. Just as Elmer had made his own toys, he now used his special talents to make his own home. He built a comfy bed and a warm fireplace and a door to protect him from chilling winds. "My house has everything I could ever want," he boasted, "except for my mama and papa." The grass turned white with the first frost of the winter. Elmer knew he would soon be the only duck left in the forest. His heart ached to see his parents once more before they flew south. As quietly as he could, he paddled back across the great pond and arrived just in time to see his flock readying for their journey. "We can't go without Elmer," he heard his mama cry. "We can't stay here," Papa replied. "If only I knew he was all right." Elmer whispered to himself from his hiding place. "I'm all right, Mama." The flock took to the sky, and Elmer waved goodbye. Do you think he's doing a very brave thing right now? Because ducks don't stay around for the winter, right? And he intends to stay. Do you think he's going to make it? We'll see. Just then, a shot rang out, shattering the cold. Hunters leapt from behind the trees, their guns blasting. The ducks screeched in fright, struggling to fly as fast and as high as they could. Shot after shot tore through the air, and ducks fell like autumn leaves from the sky. Elmer breathed easier when he saw most of the flock had escaped into the clouds, but then he realized the hunters and their dogs would be coming. He was about to hide in the pond when he was stopped by the sound of a quiet moan. So in this line in particular, the ducks fell like autumn leaves from the sky. What kind of figurative language is being used there? What device? We can tell from the like that it's not a metaphor, right? So that means it's a simile. Perfect. Terrified as he was, Elmer followed this sound. He parted the tall grass, and there, to his astonishment, he found his wounded papa. "Fly away, Elmer," Papa pleaded. "You don't see any of the other ducks coming back to rescue me. For once in your life, can't you act like a normal duck?" he argued. "Forget me. Save yourself." That's what every other duck would do. With all of his strength, Elmer lifted the old duck and carried him to the safety of the pond. It may not have been what the other ducks would have done, but Elmer knew in his heart it was the right thing to do for him. So on this page, it says, "And there to his astonishment." Is there anybody willing to tell me what they think the word astonishment means and how you might know that based on the context? Right, like surprised or, shocked by something. Good. Papa was completely confused when he awoke. "Where am I?" he quacked. "Don't worry, you're with me," Elmer answered, bringing a bowl of hot mushroom soup for his papa to eat. The old duck looked around at the wonderful home. "You did all this by yourself?" But then he remembered what had happened. "You must leave me here and fly south. No duck has ever survived a winter in the forest. Save yourself, son, please." Elmer answered calmly, "You've been sleeping for a long time, Papa. It's too late to leave." He opened the door so that Papa Duck could see the deep snow that covered the forest. So we know, he says here, that no duck has ever survived a winter before. But they are surviving, and it is the winter. So what is playing the biggest factor in their survival at this time? Right, so it was saying that he was putting on doors and to keep out the chilling winds and cold. So he's got a pretty secure structure now, a pretty secure building that keeps them warm enough to survive. Good. "Oh, son, what have I done to you?" "Don't worry, Papa," Elmer chided. "We're gonna have fun." What do we think chided means? Yeah, like a little quip, a little comment. And he was right. All winter long they played games and told jokes and made things and laughed and talked and got to know each other. It was on a warm, cloudless morning that the sky exploded with the sounds of honking and flapping. Spring had come, and the ducks were returning home. They gathered in a large field to give thanks for the safe journey. As the newly elected leader of the flock, Drake Duckling asked for a moment of silence to remember all of the fellow ducks who had not made it through the winter. "And let's not forget the ones who were shot down by the hunters last fall. And Elmer," Mama called out. "Don't forget we lost my Elmer, too." "Now, who could forget Elmer?" Drake chuckled. "That little sissy." The other ducks joined in the laughter until a voice boomed forth. "If Elmer is a sissy, then I wish I were a sissy, too." Drake angrily demanded, "Who said that?" To everyone's shock, Papa stepped forward. "Papa? It was impossible. No duck had ever survived a winter in the forest. Not one, not ever, never." Mama ran to embrace Papa as the other ducks wondered how. So how did Elmer's dad's perspective change on the things that Elmer likes and the way that Elmer is as a person? How do you think that that's changed? You think he still would not consider him to be his son? Not after saving his life. Elmer was so engrossed in cooking a pot of dandelion stew that he never even knew his mama was there until she said, "Are you too grown up to give me a kiss?" Elmer cried with joy and hugged her. "I always knew you were special," she whispered to him. "And now everyone else knows it too. I'm so proud of you." The entire flock cheered when Elmer stepped from his home. One by one, each duck congratulated him for his bravery and loyalty and ingenuity. Drake Duckling sheepishly kicked the dirt with his webbed feet. He didn't know what to say except, "Way to go, Elmer," and he offered his wing for a high five. So he was congratulated for his bravery, loyalty, and ingenuity. Can anybody tell me what the word ingenuity is? Or what it means based on all of the things that he did in order to make himself a house and... Right? So he's inventive and creative and making use of what he has to make new things that are functional for him. Awesome. Elmer took a deep breath and then spoke his mind. "I want to make one thing perfectly clear. I am the same duck I've always been. I have not changed. I am a big sissy and proud of it." Drake took a step forward. "You haven't changed, but maybe I have." Again, he offered his wing, and this time Elmer slapped it hard as the flock rushed to surround their hero. You can see them. He's still significantly bigger than Elmer. But what do you think Drake means by that, "maybe you didn't change, but I have"? What does he mean by that? Is he accepting Elmer now as a person? Is he going to stop bullying him? We'll find out. Or we'll see. We'll never know, I guess. Over the years, Elmer learned that he was not so very different after all. Out in the world, he met lots of other ducks just like himself. No, Elmer was not so different, but he did always remain special. So, thinking about this book and the gender roles that it gives people and the expectations that are given to you based on your gender, how do you think that was changed throughout the book? You can choose anybody's perception. You could use the dad's or Drake's or the mom's, because she is a very consistent person with how she feels. But explain to me what roles were being outlined or desired for Elmer to participate in, and explain how his skills and his abilities and the things that he loves to do actually enabled him to survive. Great. You guys did a really good job with that. Hope you have a great day.